Well, here we are. It sounds like the players are about ready, so we're going to go down to the game for the finals here of Paupergeddon Pisa, Rakdos Madness versus Ponza, two of the big decks of this tournament, and we're going to start it off here. And once again, Rakdos Madness was higher in the Swiss, so they're going to be on the play. Looks like they're just finishing resolving mulligans, and then we're ready to get started. It has to be a lot of pressure for both these players.
I like the glasses on. Just to say, okay, I have to take one moment to find the energy to win this game and to be the Paupergeddon champion of this spring edition 2024.
For sure. Well, here we go. Off to the races already for both players. Turn one, there's one of those new deserts from Outlaws of Thunder Junction, pinging their opponent for one. Every point of damage counts. But Vendetti, hot as usual. Turn one, Arbor Elf.
Yes.
Oh, and Bold on the Elf. That'll slow it down. No turn two Thermocars for you.
But against a deck like Barn, you have to expect this kind of interactions. So this is the new cantrip, the new green cantrip.
Yeah, this is another huge new card out of Modern Horizons 3. You look at your top 4 cards, and you get to take a permanent from them into your hand, and you also make a spawn, which really curves you in nicely. Notably, passing on the Writhing Chrysalis there and taking the Arbor Elf instead. So it maybe says something about what's in Vendetti's hand here. Maybe there's no red source or something like that, because otherwise you could curve into the Chrysalis next turn. Yeah.
So from now, this is a very good token for the Eldrazi spawn. And the only problem with Arbor Elf is that another Bolt is able to slow down you again.
So we're going to see something cool here. Plotting, another brand new card out of Outlaws of Thunder Junction.
Highway Robbery.
Yeah, this is a huge card. It lets you draw 2 cards, sort of like a classic discard a card, draw 2 effect. You can also sacrifice a land, but by plotting it, it lets you set it for a future turn where you want to draw a bunch of cards and perhaps bring back your sneaky snackers. So you don't really need to do it this turn, so why not do it later on?
Yeah, also in this moment, if the player has no other mana to play other spells, you are able to simply plot the card and then start the turn after without spend any mana, just to generate the advantage easily.
Now, he plays another tapped desert, dealing a point of damage. I will say you want to get pressure on this Ponza deck early, so the fact there are no creatures in play yet for Rakdos Madness is a little concerning, but perhaps next turn we'll see like a Hasty Imp or something along those lines. Now, here we go. Wild Growth on that forest, followed up by Arbor Elf, so ready to make a ton of mana, notably no red source hanging out, though.
Yeah, I think that here a Galvanic Blast or a Bolt must kill that elf. Because otherwise, in the next turn, Vendetti will be able to cast an Altisaur or stuff like that, threats, big threats that can generate advantage in a sort of way. So,
are we going to see this come off of plot here? Discarding a card. There's a sneaky snacker in the graveyard, and because that happens first, and then you draw 2 cards, boom, the snacker is right back on the battlefield. One of the biggest cards all weekend. Sneaky snacker. Just gotta love snacking.
This is free. This is completely free.
Oh, and then Faithless Looting right here. Gonna draw 2, discard 2. Getting just the cards you need. It's amazing how much this deck can do, this Red-Black Madness deck can do, while still keeping a ton of cards in its hand.
Wow.
Oh, look at this. Yeah, discard the Imp, put it into play. Fiery Temper down the Elf. So look like that, just out of nowhere, generate a ton of advantage, and still has a grip full of cards.
Yeah, he didn't discard 3 cards. He played 3 cards and draw 3 cards.
Yeah, Faithless Looting's pretty good when it just reads red, discard 2 cards, and play your cards for cheaper, you know?
Yeah.
There's Voldaren Epicure coming in, dealing a point of damage and making a blood. Blood, really great for smoothing out those draws and letting you madness a little bit extra, too.
Absolutely, and just to put also more pressure.
Yeah, I mean, this is it was a couple slow first turns there, but that just shows how quickly this deck can turn it around. All right, we're going to see another Wild Growth on that forest.
So 6 mana, but still not red mana. So
no
Boarding
red.
Party is not going to add to the party.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe the Altisaur next turn we might see come down.
But the point is there are... Oh, wow.
Oh, all right, so we're going to take the initiative. which means we'll get a mountain. So the first, there's a lot of things in that initiative dungeon. The first rung you always get, though, is going to get a basic land from your deck, which is exactly what Vendetti's going to do here. Go get that mountain. So he'll unlock red on the subsequent turn. However, Pisa, he's going to be able to come in and take that initiative away because certainly he's going to connect.
Yeah.
So not only will he get a land, but the subsequent chapters of that are very strong, especially the ability to deal 5 damage.
Yes, but in this case, it is very good for Rakdos Madness that is going to steal the initiative, find another land, and it's not easy. It's not an easy situation because Venditti maybe was forced to try to find the red source, but it's not a good spot.
No, definitely not. I mean, this is exactly the kind of thing you're worried about. Not only are you behind the curve a little bit, but you didn't have access to your red mana and were forced to play the Avenging Hunter. And now you're going to be able to, take the initiative back. And long term, if you hold it, that is really bad news for you. All right, now here's an old Drain 3. Once again, awesome. Blood, discard this, madness it, deal 3 to you, gain 3, and then draw a card off the blood. Blood just turning into a 1-mana clue.
He is continuing to cycling card and do the effect of the card. So it's very, it's huge. It's huge.
This deck has looked so good to me all weekend. Just the amount of value it gets out of all of its cards. A really cool, aggressive deck. All right, here we're going to see crashing in for 4 points of damage, taking the initiative away, going to get a land of his own. And notably, I mean, that he doesn't really need the extra land necessarily, but just putting an extra card into his hand is huge, so he can discard it. He can even play the land and flashback Faithless Looting if he just wants to, although I predict he'll want to hold that for a little bit. We'll see here.
So from now, the point is Venditti is only at 8 life, at 6 life, so it's under the rage of Double Bolt.
Another huge card here. So that drains their opponent for 2 and makes not 1, but 2 blood tokens.
It's like a huge divination.
Yeah.
Cheaper and huge divination, because also you are able to gain some time, because you gain 2 life, deal 2 damage, and in the future, draw 2 card and cast 2 cards. So
yeah, exactly. And there's Vodon Epicure coming down. So what? Drop down to 5. Here's the Altasaur, though. Into Writhing Chrysalis. I mean, if you're going to hit something, that is a good one to hit. The Altasaur has reach. The Chrysalis has reach. So those flyers are not safe. And if he wants to, he can even talk about attacking with that 4/5, taking the initiative back, going to the second stage, and have 2 blockers for the flyers there.
Yes.
And that's exactly what we're going to see right here.
It's the kind of situation in which Ponza try to stabilize the board and then try to go over the value respect the opponent, but the problem is in this matchup the opponent is able to deal a lot of damage without passing through the combat. So
yeah, so I mean,
it's not easy.
So he's got great protection here. The issue is, of course, that life total. He's still at 5 life. The Rakdos Madness deck runs Galvanic Blast. It's got lots of ways to deal points of damage. So while even if you stabilize the board, the amount of burn out of hand is huge, especially when you've got those 3 blood tokens and Faithless Looting to let you just filter through cards looking for the last few points of damage. So Vendetti's going to have to turn the corner really quickly here.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've got 3 Eldrazi Spawn. We got that Altasaur. We got that 2/3 Chrysalis. And those are going to hold down the fort pretty well. Look at the table. There's a bunch of different Modern Horizons 3 cards hanging out here, both the Chrysalis and the Snacker, 2 of the biggest cards in this whole tournament. Looks like they're having a little bit of a discussion right now. I think they're going to the second stage of the initiative, which is 2 +1/+1 counters. Yes. And he's choosing where he wants to put it. He's going down the left side here.
I mean, the real problem is that the opponent, so the Rakdos Madness player, has plenty of cards in hand just because he didn't discard any, because he played all the cards that he draws. So.
Right, so he puts the 2 counters on the Altasaur. Makes sense, it has Trample. And now we're going to see, can he find the burn spells to finish him off? Because if so, this Ponza deck could get somewhere within a couple turns. Okay, there's a third flyer. Third flyer. We're going to just see Crunch In, get you to 3. Crunch In, push you to 3. Block the 2 ones that won't come back from the graveyard. Those are going to die. Dealing 2 to you, take the initiative away, and then the Galvanic Blast to finish the job. There it is. Just had to get in 1 more point of damage, and that will pack up the first game. A nice job trying to come back with Vendetti, but not quite good enough.
Yes. So the game one, I think that is the most difficult for Ponza, and post board there are a lot of cards that can deal with this strategy.
Yeah, so let's go to the sideboard and let's just talk about what these players have in their sideboard. So let's start with Rakdos Madness. We've got the sideboard here. It looks like 3 Nihil Spellbomb, 4 Smash to Smithereens, 2 Gorilla Shamans. I can't make those out. Mirka, what are the last cards here?
I think.
Is that the 1BB -2/-2 spell? I can't quite make it out. Sorry, we're looking at the list here, and it's not totally clear what these last couple cards are. We're zooming and enhancing.
I mean, is the enchant that deal with if you enchant a land?
Oh, contaminated ground?
Yeah.
Holy smokes! For all out there who don't know what contaminated ground does, it's 1 and a black to enchant a land, and whenever enchanted land becomes tapped, they take 3 damage. So it's sort of like a semi land destruction spell.
2
damage.
damage.
2 damage.
If I remember well.
And then the last card, now that it's closer, I can see is Trespasser's Curse, which is the 1 and a black for an enchantment, deals 1 to them. I think it drains them for 1 every turn. So if you're the red black Madness deck, what are you bringing in here?
Against Ponza. Against Ponza, maybe there's the enchantment on the land.
Yeah, if you put it on the land, they're going to untap with the Arbor Elf, right? They
Yeah.
really can't afford to do that a bunch of times. Other than that, though, there's not a lot here. It's possible he thought his matchup against Ponza was just so favored. He's like, I'm good. Bring in the 3 contaminated grounds at most, and I'll be happy. Let's switch over to look at this red-green deck, who's going to need a lot more help against the red-black Madness deck. Here we've got 2 Gorilla Shamans, seen a lot of those in sideboards this weekend. 2 Breath Weapon, 4 Lightning Bolt, which is a really interesting sideboard card.
Yeah.
It helps you to just kill off their creatures. 4 Deglammers, and then 3 Nylia's Disciple, which is 4 mana, 2 green, importantly, for a 3/3. And when it comes into play, you gain life equal to your devotion to green. So it'll at least gain you 2 life unless it's killed in response, and maybe even a little bit more based on those Wild Growth and Utopia sprawls. What are you bringing in here?
I mean, in this moment, for sure, the Nilias, but we have to think also Breath Weapon, and we have to think, do we want the Glamour and Gorilla Shaman? I think Gorilla Shaman is a really good card because you can destroy every blood token and stuff like that. Also, plenty of lands from Mirrodin. The problem is, do you want the Glamour? Maybe yes over the other 8 Bonsai effect.
I mean, on the play, I think I like the Glamour, right? That you play a tapped land and you can just get rid of it. Although they might not have it in their opening hand. One thing I'll say that you have to be careful about, though, is there's a ton of cards you want to sideboard in here. Like you could sideboard in almost all of those cards in the sideboard, to the point of which, what are you taking out, right? Are you going to destabilize your deck? You definitely cut cards like Avenging Hunter. Keeping the initiative is going to be really hard here. But what other cards are you taking out? So I haven't seen how he sideboards against Rakdos Madness. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some kind of almost transformational sideboard where you take out a whole game plan and put a new one in. We're going to find out right now. By the way, we just peaked over 1,200 viewers here on Twitch. Thanks to all of you out there for watching. This has been an incredible weekend, and to cap it off with this viewership, amazing. So thank you all.
Thank you all.
Paupergeddon, by the way, an incredible event. Y'all got to get out here and check it out. It is so much fun. I was in Pisa last year. I'm back this year. Hope to come out again next year. It is a blast.
Yes. Thank you all.
Okay, looks like Rakdos Madness is keeping, and I think Ponza might be going for a mulligan. Looks like maybe.
Because Venditti is wants always to start with the nuts.
Yes. So. Well, yeah. How are you gonna do that if you don't mulligan for it, right? And on the play, you really want to find that strong opening hand. All right, so here we are, turn 1 Arbor Elf.
Yeah.
Big question. Is there a burn spell or is there a tapped artifact land? Those are both two things because the tapped artifact land cannot be thermokarsted, and the burn spell, of course, keeps you off of turn 2 thermokarst, which I just feel like Vendetti has every time. It's just, okay, so here we go. A tapped land, and it is not an artifact land. So if he has, okay, there is no...
Malevolent Rambling, and there is Gorilla and Nilea's Disciple.
Right, so there's some big cards. He's taking the Forest, it looks like. He pointed out it, maybe not.
I think that he is thinking.
Maybe he's thinking here.
He's thinking still.
All right, so look, he revealed Gorilla Shaman, Nylia's Disciple, Utopia Sprawl, and Forest.
So no Bold the Bird in this case. That is a rule. When I started to play Magic, it was the most important rule.
Yes, it still is. In fact, in the Magic Companion app, one of the little loading screens says bolting the bird or whatever, so it's truly an iconic bit. Okay, he's taking the Utopia Sprawl. Very good with that Arbor Elf. You can untap the forest to make additional mana. And he just passes the turn.
Wow.
So he's really banking on no burn spell. If that Arbor Elf gets burned here, I mean, the game might be over. I mean, see, he thought about the forest, opted not to take it, decided to take the risk. If he doesn't have the burn spell, I can Utopia Sprawl this forest, untap and get 2 mana, and then I really am going to get ahead. But stuck on 1 land, whoa, it is a tough spot.
I risk, I rewards. So he decided to take the risk, and we will see if the rewards will be high enough.
For sure. I mean, when you're in a position like this, you absolutely, if you're falling behind, if you're in a tough matchup, sometimes you have to just hope that, the things go your way to be able to win the game. Because, well, if you take the forest down there and the rest of your hand is bad, maybe you just got to go for the Utopia Sprawl and hope it works out. So we're seeing Rakdos Madness now in the tank, has not even played a second land. And the land drops with this deck can be really tricky, right? Because if you have Faithless Looting in your hand, you don't know, do you want to play your land first? Or if there's other stuff you want to do. If he has the burn spell, I gotta imagine he just fires it off on that Arbor Elf, though. I mean, your opponent misses their land drop. They have Arbor Elf and play Utopia Sprawl in their hand. So if Pisa has a burn spell, it is going to come down right here. I feel pretty good about that. But, thinking about that land, unless he doesn't have a second land either, which would be very, very wild game.
Also, the Utopia is another land.
It is, but next turn you have to tap the forest to enchant itself. Okay, here's a tap land, dealing 1 damage. Followed up by, not a burn spell, it's Voldaren Epic here, so that Arbor Elf is going to see the light of day. This is it. Vendetti crossing his fingers, taking his chances, hoping that Arbor Elf sticks, which it does, and he'll get to Utopia Sprawl up that forest. Now, if he draws a land here, things could be turning around, because that's 4 mana, 5 mana with Eldrazi Spawn. All right, well, here we go. Utopia Sprawl getting forest getting tapped.
I don't think he...
There's the Sprawl.
Yes.
Yep. Now we can untap with Arbor Elf for 2 mana.
Now he has 3 mana available.
Yes.
Currently. But for 3 mana, I don't think that in the list there is something relevant. Maybe another Malevolent Rumbling.
Yep. Could be. I mean, you could just untap the forest and cast the Malevolent Rumbling. So one thing I'd be thinking about if I was in Pesa's shoes right now is, okay, my opponent kept a kind of risky hand. Granted, they were on 6 cards. What made them keep this hand? Because keeping a 1-land hand with an elf is very risky against this burn deck, especially on the play. So what else was in their hand that made them so excited to keep this? And it could be there's some strong sideboard cards hanging out in there.
Yeah, but another point is that this is a move to 6.
Yes.
So
didn't want to go to 5. It's pretty risky in Ponza.
Yeah.
All right, so 1, 2, 3, here we go. Thermokarst you.
3 mana and plus a Thermokarst.
There it is. So he did have the Thermokarst on time. He kept a hand that would have been able to Thermokarst turn 2 had he drawn a land. So now, Pesa down a land, and presumably still can't deal with that elf unless he plucked a card from the top of his library that will do the trick.
So
the chat is asking if the Utopia Sprawl is on red or green. My guess is it would be on red, but I don't have confirmation of that right now for you. It doesn't have to be on green because Arbor Elf could untap it. All right, 2 mana. Here we go. A Contaminated Ground out of the sideboard. Here we go.
Yes.
A card. Truly, this is a trash draft common.
I can see the pain of the pain of Giorgio.
Oh, and wild. Right, check this out. Contaminated Ground turns it into a swamp, which means Utopia Sprawl falls off.
Wow, this is huge.
I did not think about that. That is gigantic. What a sideboard move.
This is
It makes the Utopia Sprawl fall off. That is incredible. And that drops him half his mana production.
This is huge.
Wow. And check, here we go. Now it's all going to be probably what Child's Play. Discard the Imp, draw 2 cards, refuel the hand, have a bunch of attackers, still no second land for Vendetti.
So, I mean, Pezza had a really cool prediction on the meta, because this is a card that no one was thinking about and is incredible against Ponza. If you expect a meta full of Ponza, it's huge. It's amazing.
Wow, what a card. Just makes it not a forest. You can't tap with Arbor Elf. You can't enchant it with Utopia Sprawl. A totally forgettable card. I mean, I've seen this card played in Pauper a couple times, but not substantially. What a sideboard card for this
What
Ponza
an
deck. A
amazing
really
deck
nice
builder.
find.
What an amazing deck builder.
The card we literally had to zoom in on
Yeah.
in the sideboard. Be like, what is that? Well, there it is. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to call it before it's over, but it would be pretty hard pressed for the Ponza deck to get back in this. I think we're going to see Rakdos Madness close it. You know, it might be a couple turns of play left here, but we're gonna have this Imp Kraken for 2. The 1/1 Voldaren Epicure Kraken for additional point of damage. That'll drop Vendetti down to 3 life. There's a Drain for 2 as well that gives you a couple more blood tokens. Also been a big card for the deck this weekend.
Wow.
Wow, over 1,300 viewers. Thanks to all of you. This is amazing. Is this the highest Paupergeddon viewage of all time?
I think so.
That's amazing. Well, thank you all for coming out there and watching this final match and all of the top 8. It's been incredible. I encourage you to go back and watch the other games of the top 8. They were quite wonderful as well. All right, we're gonna see a little discarding Sneaky Snacker to the blood. Then we're gonna see another blood activation to bring the Snacker back.
Yeah,
it's a real snack attack.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, this Sneaky Snacker is an overkill.
It's a little insult to injury, perhaps.
Yeah.
Just a speed bump, perhaps, on the way to
Yes.
victory. All right, well, there's Rakdos Carnarium. Just to really add insult to injury, I'll play my bounce land. You know, I'm not even scared of Viura Thermocarts anymore. And that's going to be it. Peza takes a Rakdos Madness.